All right, well, good morning or good afternoon to everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining our Healthy Native Youth Community of Practice call. We are talking about the gather and choose phases, which happen to be phase 1 and phase 2 of the Healthy Native Youth Implementation Toolbox. I'll go ahead and introduce myself before we start off with a blessing, and then our guest speakers will introduce themselves. So Keashi Kopalea, Ho Amanda Jachu Kakuska Letshina, Ho Ibachina Shiwi, Diane Chemakwe, Hom Hota Deakona Jachu Letshinake, Hom Hota Flashi Deakona Yawaki Letshinake, Hom Sita Dona Chatle, Hom Dachu Chemakwe, and Sita that Dachu Kakuska dot Rogi. Elakwa. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Amanda Jachi Kukuska. I'm from the Zuni Pueblo in New Mexico. My grandma was a Jachu, my great-grandma was a Yawaki, and my mother is the child of the Turkey clan. My German paternal grandparents are the Kukuska and the Rogi, and I am also Ask Auntie from We Are Natives Q&A service for Native youth, and I use she and her pronouns. I am your host for these Healthy Native Youth Community of Practice calls. Just a quick thank you to our funders, Indian Health Services and Secretary Minority AIDS Initiative Fund. We sure love doing this work and we sure love the funding. So thank you to our funders. And then we do like to start these calls off in a way that may be familiar to folks on this call or not. Traditionally, when we are called together, we like to begin our time by offering gratitude to Creator for the gifts that we are given. And in reciprocity, we share them with each other freely. So today I will ask however you would like and feels comfortable for you. Maybe you want to ground your feet. Put your hands in your laps, you can close your eyes. But I just want us to take this moment and thank Creator for this beautiful day and for gathering us together as we prepare our hearts and our minds to learn from each other and in reciprocity to share and give together in this space. And we thank you for our ancestors who are joining us here and just cheering us on and patting our backs and wishing us all well. Elakwa. So we also like to ground each call with a traditional teaching. So for today, we will have to look at the way we were in the past, hang on to it with our hearts, and at the same time change, except we're always changing to survive, from Dorothy Haberman, Europe. So this can help us get grounded as we reflect on what we can bring from our past and traditional ways of knowing, especially the things that we know of our community and its members as we talk about the gather and choose phases and how we might integrate what we already know with perhaps some new tools and strategies that we share today. So I will go ahead and pass it off to Taylor, and then we can go down the line to introduce ourselves.
Hatzlahel, Tobalabu Ab, Taylor Dean Seedsta, Pialabubshchat. Good morning to all of you people, my friends and relatives. My name is Taylor Dean. I am a member of the Puyallup tribe in Washington State. My pronouns are they, them, and I love live music. And I'll pass it off to Will.
Oh, Will, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Good morning, everyone. Ditchin Busan. Gawasasis Tataas Chokes Git Nia will has Sasset, Nua Oxikniange, Choi Mort Tatak Niange. Good morning again, everyone. My name is Will Hess. I am Klamath and Modoc. I'm a member of the Klamath tribes. I use the pronouns he and him. I currently work for Oregon Health and Science University in the On-Track OHSU program, and I'm happy to be here today.
Awesome. And I think Daryl's just signing in, so Daryl introduce himself a little bit later. But thank you, Taylor and Will, for introducing yourselves. Oh, there we go. There's Daryl. Daryl, are you connected?
Yes, I was waiting to be admitted for the link we had yesterday. So Taylor,
Oh,
good
shit.
thank you.
Awesome. Well, we just started. Would you mind just doing a quick introduction of yourself?
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. My name is Daryl Jones. I am Sichungu Lakota from the Rosebud Sioux tribe. I am a behavioral health outreach worker for our Wichoniwaka Health and Healing Program. We are a referral based program. We deal with majority of community events and just a little counseling, lots of different things.
Awesome. Thank you, Daryl.
Thank you.
All right, well, just a quick note on logistics. I love seeing y'all's faces, so thank you to those who've got your camera on. We respect Zoom fatigue, so if you need to turn your camera off for any reason, please do. We do, just a heads up, that the board's IT security protocols have us disable the AI note taker. So if you need an alternative, you can use the Zoom closed captioning. We do also record these community of practice sessions, which we'll upload to Healthy Native Youth, and you can use the closed captioning on YouTube for that too. You will notice on the slides that we have these Indigi icons. So if you see the male or female elder in the top right corner of your slide, that is us modeling an activity that you can then take back to your youth. The cedar hat is us sharing a strategy. The multicolored corn is where we can think about being two-spirit LGBTQ inclusive. And then the medicine shaker is us sharing our knowledge or experience with each other. We will be doing some chat box questions along with the Mentimeter, but I will walk folks through those when we get there. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We have a super chatty group who really likes to chat it up in the chat feed. So we welcome you to do that, do a little networking, say hi to some folks, and to get folks in the chat feed, if you want to start by putting in your name, your tribes and or organization, your pronouns if you're comfortable sharing, and then maybe if we want to do a little networking, we can put our role in organization, and then maybe you can just reach out to folks through the chat feed. So as folks do that, I will have Jane, who is co-hosting for us today, put in a couple links into the chat feed. And this is just a friendly reminder that as we talk to youth about sensitive topics, we want to make sure that we have some safe space procedures in order. So if you don't have anything like a group agreement, we've got a great example from the Native Stand that you can pull from. Common Sense Media also has some really great resources. The document on the right that you can fill out with your youth. And if you have teenagers in your home, they also have a family agreement, which is really lovely too, that you can fill out together and then post up on your refrigerator. And then we do have goals. So by the end of today's session, you will be able to identify Healthy Native Youth Toolbox resources and tools for your setting. You will listen to the community partners share tips and strategies for the gather and choose phases. and they'll share some lessons learned as well. Our map for today, we are going to start off with a chat box question, so you can get ready to share. We want to gauge what tools and strategies you're using or have used for the to gather guidance and feedback from the community. And then we want to see how they worked for you and maybe perhaps what you wish you had. We will keep those responses in mind as Taylor shares from the Healthy Native Youth Implementation Toolbox on the Gather and Choose phases. One thing I'd like for folks to keep in mind is how we can make connections from these foundational phases to the community buy-in piece and ultimately sustainability, which are pieces we all like to share and talk about, and it seems like are always present on folks' minds. And then how can these stages help set up the program as a whole for success? We'll take a quick wellness moment doing a visualization activity to help us find our happy place. And then we will switch gears to hear from Will Hess and Daryl Jones, who are past and current Native Stand educators. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, but Native Stand is a high school sexual health curriculum and healthy decision-making curricula that you can find on Healthy Native Youth. And then lastly, we'll share time for folks to unmute their lines, ask questions to the group, and share. And then we're going to close out the session with the Mentimeter activity to gather your feedback on these toolbox phases. We do base these calls on your feedback, so the information that we get from you is super helpful as we prepare and think about future. So thanks folks for typing into the chat. We will continue on this chat box journey here. And if you now wouldn't mind sharing the tools that you have used to gather guidance and feedback for your programming. And maybe Jane can put that question into the chat box too, so we can get folks typing into the chat box. And then also, if you wouldn't mind sharing how those tools worked for you or didn't work for you. And if there's anything that you wish perhaps maybe you had during these gather and choose phases. And we'll just let folks type into the chat and then we'll revisit those as we move along. But I'll go ahead and pass it over to Taylor to start with the gather and choose phases.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. Today I'm going to be talking about our implementation toolbox and getting into the nitty-gritty of the gather and choose phases of our toolbox. Go ahead and put it in the next slide. So if you're not familiar, the Healthy Native Youth website houses our implementation toolbox. We developed the Healthy Native Youth website to increase protective factors for youth by building capacity within our tribal communities by helping teachers, parents, caring adults. In order to do that, we wanted to have programs that helped youth have positive self-image, build their personal wellness, have an identity that they're connected to, cultural connectedness, having positive social norms within communities, having opportunities, whether that be career or otherwise, building family and non-family capacity within communities, and self-efficacy, so helping youth be able to see themselves achieving goals. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So the Healthy Native Youth Toolbox has 5 phases: gather, choose, prepare, implement, and grow. But today we're just going to focus on gather and choose. So the gather phase, which is represented by a cedar basket, is the time when you're going to be engaging with the community to figure out what the health priorities are in the community. What are people struggling with? What do people need help with? And we have a variety of tools to kind of gather that information. And then the next phase that we're going to look at today is the choose phase. This is when you choose your curriculum and identify the decision makers for being able to actually implement a curriculum in your community and what approvals you need to get. So next slide, we're going to watch a little video. Oh, wait, nope, never mind. So we're actually just going to quickly talk about the fact that the implementation toolbox isn't linear. I say this in pretty much every single presentation I give on our toolbox. You can start at any point in this honeycomb webpage is a great way to start. It'll just ask a couple of questions about what you're looking for, and it'll take you straight to the stage in the implementation toolbox that that question would answer. All right, next slide. I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the success we've had from our implementation toolbox. We've got a lot of users in the West Coast and the Southwest, and some in the Great Lakes region and the Northeast. So Washington and California and Oregon being our biggest hits, which is really cool to see how many users that we have on our site. Next slide, please. All right, we're going to watch a quick video. This is just going to give you a quick synopsis of the gather phase by my wonderful colleague, Michelle Singer.
Welcome to the gather phase. The gather phase in Digi icon is a basket. Indigenous baskets have many uses, and the basket icon symbolizes weaving a strong community connection, coming together to gather feedback and support. In Native communities, people gather for a variety of reasons. In celebration, to prepare first foods, for seasonal planning, and for local decision making. It is important to be of one mind to start out in a good way. As you plan activities to support healthy Native youth, it is important to gather with other members of your community, including youth, parents, elders, teachers, youth advocates, and school counselors, to learn what health priorities they have for youth from their perspective. By coming together, listening and hearing community feedback about your local health priorities, you will gain valuable information while building partnerships with important decision makers. The partnerships you build with community stakeholders and important decision makers will help ground your program with a solid foundation. Over time, they will be your champions when you select and implement health curricula and programs. Gather and plant those seeds so the roots you cultivate will grow your circle of support.
Thank you. All right, next slide, please. Just really quickly, I'm going to go through these a little bit more in depth during our walkthrough, but this is our identifying youth and community partners map. It's a really simple worksheet. This can be found in our implementation toolbox. So on one side, you've got the different players within your community, youth, family, health directors, principals, teachers, clinical staff, things like that. And then you can list them out on the left side, and then the right is what support they could be to a potential curricula or program. Next slide, please. Once you've identified who decision makers are and who the community members in your community are, you can make a community needs assessment, which is essentially a survey. This document outlines how you can do this survey, where you can do it, and then offers sample questions that you can pull from for a variety of different program needs that you might. So there's like youth, clinical staff, and I believe parents and families sample questions for you to look at. Next slide, please. And then this activity is really fun. It's essentially the same thing as the survey, but you put it in a bingo format. So this document's got some sample questions as well. So this one is how teen friendly is your clinic? And then it also has access to how to have an auto-generated bingo sheet, so you don't have to like make it all in Photoshop yourself. You can just use that tool. And yeah, it's a super fun way to collect data with especially youth who have short attention spans and might see a survey as a test. So next slide. All right, so now we're moving on to the choose phase, and we will play a little video from that as well, just to get a synopsis.
Welcome to the choose phase. The choose phase in Digi-Icon is berries. Traditionally, communities came together to harvest first foods, and for some, this was a type of berry. The berries icon symbolizes choosing a culturally relevant curriculum. After gathering community feedback to identify adolescent health priorities, resources, and needs, now you are ready to visit the Healthy Native Youth website to select a culturally relevant, age-appropriate curricula to fit your community. Visit the comparison chart, a fantastic tool that lets you compare programs side by side. You can compare curricula by grade level, duration or length of time, and health topics covered to select a curriculum that aligns with your goals, setting, and timeline. We have ready-to-use templates you can use to obtain formal approval between partners, like a letter of support or a memorandum of agreement. Getting approval in writing can help sustain your program if there is turnover in leadership or staff. The stories and tips from those who have done it share real-life examples and words of encouragement for choosing a program that works for you and your home community.
Yay, thank you, Amanda, for playing that video. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So I want to walk through our toolbox. Feel free to scan this QR code and go through it on your phone with me as I do this presentation. And I am going to go ahead and share my screen, Amanda, when you're ready. You all see my screen okay?
Are you able to put that QR code up again?
Hold on.
I just put a link in the chat.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, can you all see all right? Take that as a yes. So while you all are going to the implementation toolbox on your own time, this is what the first page of the gather phase looks like. Every single phase has the little icon. You can click to each phase by clicking on the icon either up here or down here as well. Each phase kind of has steps within that phase, and that's represented by these dots, and you can click to those as you go through, or you can use these arrow keys to go back and forth between each step in the phase. So the gather phase starts with an overview, a goal, and the steps within the phase. So the gather phase steps are as follows: gather input, youth interests and health priorities, identify community needs and resources, and select a program setting. So I'm going to go to the next step. So the next step is connecting with your community members, and that was that identify youth advocates and community partners page. So whenever you see this Ulu knife tool from our relatives in Alaska, that's when you know you're going to have a template or a tool that you can use in your community or for your program. So all you have to do is click on this part, and it'll take you directly to that document where you can print it out, download it, use it however you like. So there you see that document there. All right, next step in the gather phase. Gather input on youth interests and health priorities. It lists out a few such as drugs and alcohol, sexual health, suicide prevention, etc. We also have helpful links and stories from the field, things that might be useful to you when you're thinking about building your own program. The next template is the Community Needs and Resource Assessment. And I'll click on that so you can look at it a little bit closer. So I like this template because it kind of helps you plan out how you would set up a survey. So who's your audience, parents, elders, community members, youth, etc. How do you want to gather that feedback and in what settings? So an in-person survey, a mail survey, email attachment. You could do a social media poll like on Instagram, for example. You could do a survey link or online form. We use SurveyMonkey a lot at the board. Or you can do the Zoom breakout rooms poll feature. You could also do in-person interviews. And then you can kind of list out a variety of events that you could have this survey put at. So different school events, community events, tribal events, powwows, cultural events, etc. And then here are all the sample questions. So you've got sample questions for youth, lots of great questions. And they're A, B, C, and D style. And then you've got clinical questions and then questions for caregivers and also questions for school administrators. And then the last one is Two-Spirit LGBTQ community readiness. So lots of really cool guides for that. The next step is program selection checklist. I'll just go over this really quickly. But it kind of helps you outline the strengths that you have within your community and for implementing a program and what some of the limitations are, such as space, classrooms, etc. And it also can help you pick out different virtual platform options for learning environments as well. And then the last step is that cool little bingo data collection activity, which I'll show you just really quickly. So this was adopted from the National Indian Child Welfare Association. And here's that link to the bingo card generator. So you can do a 30 bingo cards for free on this website. And it'll let you input in your own answers into it. So yeah, and then it's got kind of a lesson plan for this as well for the activity where you could have a discussion, etc. So that's the gather phase. Now that you've gathered your input from the community, let's say that they are interested in healthy relationships and sexual health when you did your survey. So now you're moving on to the choose phase. You've got the overview. During this phase, you're going to choose which criteria are most critical, select a program that aligns with your goals, and then get approval when needed. So during this time, once again, you're going to be thinking about who the community members were, so you can identify those decision makers. We've got a tool for that. Once you're there, it's time to look at the curriculum comparison chart. This is my favorite tool on our website. It's very cool. It allows you to compare all 19 of our curricula, and you could do multiple at one time. You could do one at a time. And this will really help you kind of compare which one might work best for you. So we said we were interested in our community and healthy relationships and sexual health. Let's just pick 3 ones to compare together. And let's say the age group we're looking for is high school. All right. So this is how the curricula comparison chart works. It takes the 3 curricula up here on top and then gives you the information about them on each. So for Brave, Native Voices, and Native Stand, they're all good for high school students. So that's great. It gives us the program setting. So for Brave, it's flexible. Native Voices could be in school or after school. Native Stand 2.0 is also flexible. LGBT inclusive, no for Brave, but yes for Native Voices and Native Stand. And when we say something might not be LGBTQ inclusive, it doesn't necessarily mean it's anti-LGBTQ, but those issues just aren't addressed in that curricula. All of our curricula are trauma informed. We also have the health topics covered. This is going to be very important. So BRAVE is alcohol and drug prevention, healthy relationships, mental health, other healthy life skills, suicide prevention, and bullying prevention. That could be a good contender, but no sexual health. Native Voices is just sexual health. Native Stand 2.0 is healthy relationships, other healthy life skills, and sexual health. That might be the one. So evidence of effectiveness, BRAVE is promising practice, Native Voices is best practice, and Native Stand is a promising practice. This might also be important for you if you're a teacher teaching in a public school. You might need a certain evidence of effectiveness in order to implement a program. We also have the duration. So BRAVE could be a variety of different times. It could be one lesson, so one day, or 7 lessons. Native Voices could be 1 lesson as well, or 5 lessons, depending. And then Native Stand is 18 sessions. So that could be a whole semester's worth of health, a health class. We also have the costs. Most of our curriculum, almost all, are completely free to use. But Native Stand, for example, might have cost of materials. So it has a variety of activities that might use paper and pens and things like that. We also have student ratios and endorsements as well. So BRAVE and Native Stand do not have endorsements, but Native Voices has the CDC's HIV effective interventions. Really quick, we're going to go back to our choose phase and just kind of go through the rest of it. So I would say that Native Stand 2.0 was probably the one that fit our needs the best. Here we've got our templates for letters of support for educators and sites. This is a template that you can use to write to get approval to be a representative of a program. And then we also have a memorandum agreement template, which is an agreement between a school and some sort of other partner, 2 organizations, in order to create this program. And then lastly, we've got seeking input from youth. So making sure that the curriculum you're using is appealing to the youth as well. And that's the choose phase. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this was helpful to people to kind of understand how our toolbox works and how some of the tools can be used in our community. Thank you.
Yay, Taylor. Well, thank you. I've got that QR code up if folks want to take out their phones. I know Jane also shared that into the that link in the chat feed as well. So thank you, Taylor. All right, this is you'll see our elder in the top right corner there. So this is a modeling activity. We like to showcase different wellness moments. So 1, you're taking care of yourself and you're filling your cup. And then 2, you can share these activities with the youth or the adults that you work with. So if you want to turn your camera off, you can sit in your chair, plant your feet on the ground, you can stand, your feet shoulder width apart. You can lie on the ground or sit cross-legged, however you feel comfortable doing this. And we're going to simply begin by taking a deep breath in and breathing out, releasing all of the air that's inside of you. Breathe in slowly and deeply through your nose. Feel it go down into your belly. And then you're going to count 4 gently in your head as you inhale. Hold your breath for 4. And then breathe out for 4. Emptying all of your air out. And let's do that one more time before we begin visualizing our happy place. So breathe in for 1, 2, 3, 4, and breathe out, releasing all of the air inside of you. slowly, deeply through your nose, down into your belly. And then continue breathing deeply in and out. Now, imagine a feeling of calm, of peace, a place where you have no worries, cares, or concerns, a place where you can simply relax and rejuvenate and enjoy just being. Now, I want you to imagine your peaceful place. You can be at the beach or a forest or a city, any place where you feel calm, safe, peaceful. Maybe it's a memory, maybe it's a place in your imagination. You may be alone or with someone who keeps you safe. Visualize it. Think about what you see. Are there colors? Are there shapes? Now step into your scene. How does your body feel? Can you feel the wind? Can you feel temperature? Do you feel warm, cold? Can you feel anything under your feet? Like mud squishing between your toes, sand beneath your feet? Is there ground beneath you? Or maybe you're floating in the air or lying down. Do you feel a soft breeze, the warmth of the sun, or the touch of a relative? Do you feel safe and happy? And think about the sounds that you're hearing. Is it perfectly silent? Are you hearing crickets? Is there a gentle sound on the wind? Is there water, music? Now, can you smell anything? Is it crisp or delicious or sweet? And you can stay here as long as you like. You can look around, notice what it feels like to feel calm and safe and happy. And then take a last look around and remember how it feels to be in your happy place. And know that you can come back to this anytime that you want. Just remember what it looks like and what it feels like. Remember what it smells like, what you can hear, and what you can taste. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes with a big smile on your face, big smile in your heart, and a big smile in your eyes. Thank you. All right, we will go ahead and pass it over to Mr. Will, who hopefully found his happy place.
Yeah, I did. Thank you, Amanda, for that. Good morning again, everyone. Again, my name is Will Hess. I work currently for Oregon Health and Science University in our program, which is called On Track OHSU. Working with Indigenous students in my community here in Klamath County, Oregon. Working to increase our Native middle and high school students' awareness of and interest in careers in the health and science field. Second. All right, I have my video on right now. I'll give a little bit of a disclaimer. I've been having some choppy internet today. So if it gets choppy again, I might shut it off. Yeah, there's some crazy wind going on right now. So also wanted to mention if I get disconnected at any point, I have a backup hotspot just in case, but I'll have that ready. Hopefully won't need to use it, but just wanted to throw that in just in case. but yeah, again, that's my current role here in the community. Previously, I worked for the Klamath tribes for my entire career up until about 2022, about 2 years ago, since I've started this role with OHSU, working in the behavioral health field, specifically in our tribal prevention department, where a large focus of our work was on promoting protective factors and raising awareness in the community, particularly amongst youth and families about alcohol and drug abuse, as well as promoting cultural connection and mental health promotion in the community, which is where I came to know and get to know the Healthy Native Youth Program and all of the awesome resources that are being shared with you right now. I want to give a quick, before I get into it too much, just thank you to Amanda and Taylor and Stephanie for allowing me to take up some space and some time today, and to be able to share a little bit kind of about my journey using this gather phase and my experience with one of the Healthy Native Youth curriculums, which was Native Stand, which we heard a little bit about earlier. That's a program that I was able to implement in the community with the help of a lot of others for a few years. And so I will also give a shout out to Michelle Singer, who we heard from earlier in those videos, talking a little bit about the gather and choose faces. Michelle, she's just such a champion for Native adolescent health, and she's been a really great resource and just support system for myself, and I know so many others who she's connected with through her work, and just the whole Native We Are Native team. They've all been great support, and just really thankful for everything that they do for all of our communities. And I'll come back to that again at the end, but starting out, I had a few things I wanted to share. I'm not sure if it's Taylor or Amanda, but we can move to the next slide. There we go. I kind of have to jog my memory a little bit when Michelle asked me to talk about uh, this topic today. I was at first not really sure, if I would have anything relevant to share, because it has been a few years since I implemented or facilitated the Native Stand curriculum. But I've, stayed connected with Michelle and others at the health board and with Healthy Native Youth since I moved on from my previous role. And she, it encouraged me to, kind of take a walk down memory lane and think about, how things happened back then. And so I kind of took a look back, and, at the time, as I mentioned, our behavioral health program was really kind of in a really busy time. I mean, it's always been busy, but looking back, I came into the prevention team here in Klamath back in 2015, in the fall of 2015, and at the time, I sort of just hit the ground running. As many of us who work in tribal communities and wear different hats in our communities, our reservations, know, our work is definitely cut out for us as soon as we clock in on day one. So, I really began quickly, learning as much as I could from my supervisor and other coworkers that were, had been doing the role for a while. I was brand new to the behavioral health field, to the prevention field. And so
44 people are on.
just getting into kind of the the gather phase, what wound up becoming the gather phase. I also, want to give a little bit of a disclaimer that at the time when we ended up looking for and choosing Native Stand to be our curriculum that we would go on to implement here in Klamath, the Klamath tribes. The toolbox, we didn't have this great, toolbox that's structured exactly the way that it is now. Back then, it was kind of in the, I guess, the grassroots stages of development back then. And so things looked a little bit differently. So some things, that I share might seem a little out of order if you're comparing them directly to the toolbox that we're using right now. But it all came together, and so I think it'll all make sense in the end. But at the time, there were a couple of things that we had done to kind of get a grasp of where we were at in terms of the overall health and wellness of the Native youth in our community. And one of those things was there was a community needs assessment that was conducted actually before I came on, that was conducted in our community, in our tribal community specifically, that outlined a lot of the issues and concerns that tribal families and tribal students were experiencing, problems that they were having, issues that they were coming across and facing in the community. Another thing that was really big in identifying our needs was we leaned on data that was taken from, back then it was called the Oregon Student Wellness Survey. I think now it's just called the Oregon Student Health Survey. But essentially, with the Oregon Student Wellness Survey, which is a great tool for those of you that are in Oregon. I know there's a few other people on the call. But it's essentially a survey conducted by the Oregon Health Authority every 2 years. And its purpose is to really assess the school climate and assess behavioral health needs of students in the state of Oregon, all students. And so the survey goes really in depth, and it asks questions about everything from, alcohol and drug use to, mental health indicators, behavioral health, relationship violence, teen dating violence. It's a really in-depth anonymous survey. But what is really cool about the survey is that data is collected at the state level, and then broken down from that, each county in Oregon receives a report of the data that is specific to that county. So you can see how the youth in your specific county are answering these questions. And then you can take it a step farther, and each of the 9 federally recognized tribes in Oregon also receives their own breakdown of the report on that data. So there's a question about tribal affiliation on that survey as well. So any students who self-identify as being a member of an Oregon tribe, that data is collected as well. And so that was a really big tool that we used at the time to kind of assess, I guess, sort of the state of, our Klamath tribal youth in our county, and then also across the state at the time. And what we found from looking at that survey was that we had, our tribal youth from our community were, unfortunately, were drinking alcohol. They were using tobacco and using other drugs, and also engaging in risky behaviors at much higher levels than their non-native peers. Another kind of red flag that stood out when looking at the data was that a large number of our tribal teens, both males and females, had indicated, witnessing domestic violence in the home, had also experienced higher levels of relationship violence compared to their non-native peers. And so this was something that was, very concerning, but it wasn't necessarily something that we didn't know. We weren't unfortunately surprised by this data because as the behavioral health department for the tribe, we were really spread out into the community on a wide level, working with tribal members on a wide variety, on a large spectrum, everything from grief and loss support to advocating for students with IEPs in the schools to providing cultural camps and after school activities for youth. And so we kind of took a look around us, and as folks are working in these fields, you tend to have sort of your fingers on the pulse of the community. We know what's going on. It's sort of that qualitative data, looking at the youth in the community, even looking at the youth in your own family, especially for those of us who are working in the public health field that maybe working in a community that we're from. You know, I was kind of, looking around and, listening, what are, my nieces and nephews sharing, what are we seeing? What kind of trends are we seeing going on with the youth and our families and their friend groups and the communities, and what concerns are we hearing from parents? So kind of getting that data just from the community. And then having that, sort of quantitative data to back up kind of what we already knew. Our community has a lot of issues going on right now. We have the data to back it up. And so where do we go from here? And another thing that had happened during that time was there was a real need recognized for folks in our community to come together to pull resources. The summer before we began implementing the native stand curriculum, there had been a string of incidents in our community, that were involving a mix of tribal and non-tribal youth in our community. Some building vandalism, some other crimes that were being committed, and it just really hit our small community hard. There were a lot of people that were affected by sort of this, I guess, outburst, you would call it. And there was a sort of a town hall meeting that was held to kind of address community members who were feeling really concerned and really frustrated with some of the actions of some of the youth in the community, things that were going on. And during that meeting, there were a lot of people who were really upset, really angry. And then sort of in the back of the meeting, there were a few folks who kind of put their heads together and said, what can we do to address these issues in a way that's going to be, not that in a way that's just going to be productive and not counterproductive. And so from that, a coalition was formed. And so that brought people together from various, facets of or areas of the community, our tribal education department, our prevention department. There were teachers from the school, that stepped forward to join the coalition. Community members were willing to help. We also were able to get the coalition up and running partially with funding from our county public health department, which there was a representative from that program at that meeting as well. And so we all came together and developed this coalition. And one of the first things that we did as that coalition was we went out into the community and we did a door-to-door community safety survey. with as many residents in the community as we could get interviewed and taking the survey. And so that was another sort of boots on the ground measure that we took to collect data and to see what we needed to do moving forward. And so once we had, all of that information gathered and data to back it up, then it was time to move on to getting support from our school district and also from our tribal council. All communities are different in the way, I think their tribal governments interact with programs and the community just sort of in general. Um, but we were able to hear draft up a resolution. We came together, all those folks I mentioned, and we drafted a resolution to go to tribal council and begin implementing this program. And this is where I shared earlier things were going to seem a little out of order in terms of following the checklist. But I think someone said in the chat earlier that that's okay because we in Native communities we don't always do things in that linear sort of Western fashion that we kind of sometimes become used to. But as long as things come back full circle, things work out. So we had actually identified the program sort of after all these incidents I mentioned happened. We looked at the data. We kind of were trying to figure out, what's a good structured program or a good structured approach that we can take to begin education around a lot of these sensitive topics that we're raising concerns for amongst our youth. And so, one day I was actually sitting in my office, and at the time my supervisor, her office was connected to mine, and she said, "Hey, I want you to fill out this registration form, this application to go to a training." And I just said, "Okay, I'll do it." So, she emailed it to me. I filled it out, and it ended up being an application to apply for the Native Stand program. And so we ended up I ended up attending the program, attending the training. And then once that was brought back to our community, that's actually when we started hitting the ground with working on getting the admin support from our school. We took this data to them, said, this is the data that has been presented to us. This is what's going on. What are issues that you're seeing within the school? And issues that they were seeing within the school was a large number of our tribal students were falling behind in their credits. So we were able to develop a plan to present to the school district to allow students to receive recovery credit for completing the Native Stand program. And so there were MOUs that were established between both the tribe and the school district. And then once we had that all laid out, the community buy-in and the student buy-in really sort of, fell into place. We knew that it was really important for the programming to take place in a safe space, in an environment that was going to be comfortable for the youth and accessible for the youth. We knew it was really important that we used a curriculum that was going to be, healing informed and really highlight protective factors, and also was a program that we could do together. So really utilizing the folks on that coalition, utilizing, our tribal elders, folks in our language and culture and heritage department, other folks that could help us adapt this program to becoming a program that could be really culturally relevant for our community here. And once we kind of got all those ducks in order, getting the student buy-in was, another thing that was really big because the folks that were giving, the programming had to be folks that the students would trust, had to be really flexible to their schedules because we didn't want to take away from, their extracurricular activities or their responsibilities that they had in their own lives. And so we were able to create a program that was adaptable. We created a weekend program where the students were meeting originally one weekend a month over the course of a school year to receive that recovery credit. And we built in a lot of different incentives, so always providing food and little prizes and things for the students to reward them for showing up. And I think I'm almost at time. I can just really quickly go through, a few things on this last slide, a couple of lessons learned. For some reason, it's not, the words aren't showing up on my screen, but let me cut over to, oh, there we go. Yeah, it was a journey, implementing this program. Few takeaways that I have is, I think we hear this a lot, trust the process. And I really lean on that a lot, with programs like the curriculums that Healthy Native Youth has. It's really they're really adaptable. To meet sort of the changing needs of your community. So uh, if things don't work out, the first time the way that you thought they were, take a deep breath, ground yourself, and just, move forward the best way you can. It's really important to have community and to lean on your community and not be afraid to switch it up if you need to. And then one real quick last shout out I want to give on the next slide is just to the Healthy Native Network and the Northwest Portland Area Indian Health Board, the We Are Native team. All of the resources that they have been a huge support to myself, as I mentioned, not only, in my previous role, but with, my current role now, we're still connected. The tribal epidemiology centers are listed up there on the screen. So you can look at the epicenters that are in your region and reach out to them for support as well. And yeah, that's about it for me. I'm a little over time, so I don't want to drag us out too much longer, but thank you all for your time and for listening.
Thank you for your time and thank you for sharing, and giving the gift of, sharing your experience with us. I've got a lot of notes here. I'm hoping others do as well, so that when we open up the line, we can share a little bit more freely. But I do want to save just a few minutes. We've got Daryl on, who is going to share a little bit about the choose phase. And how Native Stand was selected in his community. So Daryl, I will pass it over to you if you want to share a little bit, please.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for sharing, Will. That was amazing information, and I was just writing down a couple notes. It's cool that in Indian country here we have a lot of similarities in our needs and our issues, but we all have a different way of getting those goals accomplished. So that's probably one of the best exciting things. So I kind of went through the choose phase a little bit more than normal when I jumped onto the project for Native Stand and Native 2.0. I'm actually in the middle of implementing Native 2.0 to our tribal schools, 8th graders. And this is actually the second batch of 8th graders that I was able to administer and implement to. So a couple things that I learned in this past year were very eye-opening. One thing that I did have written down was the goal for choose, and that was decide which programs align with your goals and values. And and then it says consult with decision makers. So I went through when I first jumped on to our program. And let me kind of back up here. I'm a behavioral health outreach worker for Wachoni-Wakan Health and Healing Center here in Rosebud. We work predominantly with suicide prevention. And like I said earlier, we're a referral-based program. So a couple of coworkers and myself are first contact for suicidal ideation and individuals that need counseling services. So already having that background, I went through and picked up the Native Stand Native 2.0 curriculum, and we were going through different scenarios with our youth. And unfortunately, with technology, that changed what behavioral health looks like for that age group. And I'm a millennial, so I don't want to carbon date myself too much, but I am a millennial, and I was right at the cusp of technology in schools. So I was able to problem solve prior to technology. And now technology makes things so much easier, but unfortunately, a lot of the kids are starting to understand the severity, the seriousness, and the toll it takes on our mental health. So understanding that need, when I jumped on this project a year and some change ago, and we really wanted to address the need in our community that we need our children to know what a healthy relationship, what sexual health is, the changes that they're going through in their body. But we were having this issue of parents wanting to almost have a better insight as to who's teaching them, as opposed to some parents, they didn't want anybody to teach them. So we had to address that need. And the choose phase really, really helped understand kind of what age we wanted to go with, and what aligns with our community. And now I'm implementing in the slot of a wellness class. So that's what we're considering our Native Stand or Native 2.0 is a wellness class. And my first batch of kids, when they see me to this day, now they're freshmen, every time they see me, they bring up, hey, remember Native 2.0, we did this, we did that. And we go through the whole steps of, okay, well, how is that affecting you now? And I have a couple young men that, granted, it stuck with them. And I love how every single time, like I said, when I see them, they bring up, remember lesson 7. And I, if I'm being honest, I'm just like, no, but remind me. So it's actually really awesome that we were able to address that need and get them involved. But as far as getting the community involved, I went door to door to every single parent. I went through and introduced myself, what I do, what my goal was, and I pretty much let the parents know that, your child is in good hands, but what can I do to help you understand this process? And a lot of them said the same thing. Just kind of teach him or her about the conversations that I'm uncomfortable to have, and that's fine. So we kind of went through and started to really strive. And we at Wachoni-Wakan, we understood that need. And the second year, we were able to take what we weren't able to do last year and expand on that. So a couple quick lessons that we learned was one, putting faces to names. And understanding that that is probably the most important thing, because we want to not only humanize, almost dehumanize processes, but we also want to understand that we are also part of the community, and we're here. And I'm in a very niche corner, I like to say, of the world here in Rosebud. One, because I'm implementing at my alma mater. I actually graduated from the school I'm implementing in now. Two, a lot of people here on the reservation know me for my long distance running and my volunteering. So I already have a little, I guess, foot in the door. So that was actually one of the easiest parts, was getting the community involved and just going out and talking to our relatives. I always like to say that when we do anything, any events, curriculums, implementation, I'm only great because of the people around me. And I let my kids know that we're only as great as our next person beside us, left of us, in front of us, and behind us. Because we are natives, we are a group. So that was one thing that I learned. Another thing that I learned really quick was the importance of vocabulary and the breaking down of that vocabulary. Keywords that we know, keywords that we use to understand. A lot of times, my first go around, a lot of the kids were like, "Hey, you're the sex ed guy," and I'm like, "No, not necessarily sex ed, but I'm glad that you're correlating what we're learning to sex ed, because it applies." So a lot of times that's kind of the things that I've learned. Just being inclusive, understanding that what might work for one student might not work for another student. What another student might understand, another student might not even be able to comprehend the concept. So understanding a lot of the different community members was one of my biggest lessons learned. And predominantly the age range that I work with in this Native 2.0 Native Stand curriculums are from 12 to 18. So they're going through big changes. So not only do I want to try to foster good relationships, healthy decision-making, driving home the perception that sexual health is part of your overall health. Because I want to refrain from the stigma when it comes to sexual health in Native country. Because a lot of it is still taboo. We want to be able to open that door and normalize it. And especially here on Rosebud, we are trying to normalize men's mental health, LGBTQ, and mental health in general, because it all plays a part in a lot of our day-to-day life. So I hope I was a little bit clear. I'm kind of just reading off of my notes here on the side, but I think I'm at time here also. I did leave a couple minutes for questions, so if anybody has any questions or comments or concerns, let me know. I'm pretty much open to all the processes.
Well, you were super clear, and I just want to say thank you to you and to Will and Taylor and everyone on this call from the bottom of my heart, for being there, for yourself and for our youth. And these calls just make me feel so hopeful, yeah, about the work that we're doing on the ground. And so I thank you for sharing. And we've got some time, so I would like to open it up to folks. If you want to unmute your line, now's the time to talk and share. And we had a lot of good questions and comments in the chat feed. So feel free to open up your line. Is Anna on the line? Anna Smith?
Yes, I'm back. Thank you.
Yay! I wanted to ask you because you had talked about working with your elders and your leaders to get feedback, and I wanted to see if you would share a little bit on that process, because maybe others might be thinking of doing something similar.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okuk Shaswikab, Okushak Sa. So my name's Anna Smith. My Wakab is my Indian name. And then Okuk Sa is that you? Hello, it's a greeting, but I'm happy to be here. But we so I was hired to work as a social emotional learning person for a district where one school is 94% native, that's the Makah tribe, and then that's the school's public school on a res, and then the other school is mostly non-native, and it's a tiny, the other one's really small. So there was about 400 kids K through 12, and I worked predominantly with 6 through 12. And what we did with our elders, like 3 years, the second year that I was there, is we had a luncheon at the museum, or we have a museum on our reservation, and we fed them. And then my mom was alive at the time, which I'm going to get emotional because she's gone now, but we were able to just sort of listen. What do you think do you see that our kids need as elders and leaders? So the tribal council was there, the school district school board was there. There were some teachers, language teachers there. There were people who, the directors of the museum, Cultural Research Center were there. And it was a smaller group, and then singers and some of the leaders and elders who are singers for our tribe. So it was maybe like 12 or 14, and we ate lunch and they just shared, and they went from one person to the next, and then I just took notes and created a document. And then one lady who is trying to reignite our language program, she had a document with these teachings on there. So we added to those teachings, and then so we've had those 3 years in a row. And then we took, for example, they wanted to see more basketry and carving implemented in the schools. So we got a grant to do that. And then we hired and they made drums, they made baskets, they made, and then those classes, the carving and the basketry, then turned into the principal decided she wanted to put that on in the classroom as classes as an elective. And then, so then we went back, and then they shared with the elders and leaders the next year what was happening. And then they were so excited. And then this last year, recently I was hired to have another luncheon with the elders and leaders and students, and it's getting bigger. We're relocating our school to higher ground because we live right on the water, the northwest tip of Washington State, off the Olympic Peninsula. Canada's up here. So we're relocating to higher ground. And so we wanted their feedback. What do they want in the schools? And it was just incredible. So yeah, that's one of the ways. And then we had 19 deaths in 1 month. And so we had like a come pray in your own way gathering, and people prayed. You get people come, and these elders and leaders did that. And then it turned into, we need to have something for the whole community. So 125 people came and come pray in your own way. And people needed it after such a dark time for such a tiny tribe. We're like 2,000 people on the reservation, and there's maybe 2,000 off, So those are just examples. We did a healing circle when a girl was tragically killed in a car wreck, and that was in the middle of COVID. So we gathered outside around a fire, and elders came and spoke life to the kids. So we did things like that. It was really fruitful too, I would say. So it was a way to be culturally responsive with social emotional skills, and in this collective healing, which is the way I believe we try as tribal people. Tribe in itself is a collective word. you know, even though we might not all get along, we learn to, our tribe says, leave it at the door, you know, you're here to heal together. And that's how we were. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. One piece that you mentioned that connects with something that Hannah mentioned too, I think the piece that, just like the relationship building piece that Will had talked about, is connecting the sharing piece. So when we're gathering information from, you know, folks who are taking their time out, you know, they're really invested, they're sharing, they've opened their hearts and their minds. I think the piece that is so important is to always make sure that we're circling back and feeding back the, you know, okay, so we heard you and here's what we're doing about it, or here's what we're going to try to continue doing about. And that's so important for the relationship building piece. So, you know, that's why they keep coming back to your events, because you're feeding back, you know, what you learned and what you heard, and people feel appreciated and heard. And so I think that, and what Hannah shared in the chat too, is, yeah, don't just, you know, start something and then leave us. I love that, Hannah, and still working 20 years ago with some old and new students. So I appreciate you sharing that piece there.
Yeah,
So,
so good.
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just think that's so true. You know, I think our principal said, well, because we also did like a fentanyl assembly with 6 through 12, and it's before the state of Washington is mandating that we inform and equip kids. So we gathered all the partners in the tribe that from council to the clinic to elders to leaders, and we did a fentanyl to inform and equip kids, not the scare tactics but you know, and then the principal said, yeah, we don't want to be one and done. So now we do 3 a year. I'm not there anymore, but they're doing it still. And the kids even put a wolf dance on the floor as part of the healing, you know, and so good. I'm sorry I missed, because I had to jump out for another meeting and I came back and I'm like, I missed
I'm
some.
so glad you did. I
I'll
was
be
like,
quiet.
yeah, make sure she gets back in. Well, thank you so much, Anna, for sharing, and thank you to folks also. Yeah, thanks, Taylor. We've got the pieces that you may have missed, Anna, we're recording, so you can go back and watch those pieces too. But I know folks have to jump off, and so I just want to close us out here. And if you want to take your phone out, you know, we really do base these calls off of what we hear from folks on these calls and what we get on email and technical assistance. So if you wouldn't mind taking your phone out and scanning that QR code, and then Jane's got that Mentimeter link into the chat as well. But I'll go ahead and close us out, and we just want to see and collect a little bit of information from you. And we want to know what's useful and what's not useful in these calls. So if you want to hear a little bit less of something and a little bit more of something else, or if you want to, you know, go out into breakouts, or if you want to do something different, we'd love to hear what your thoughts are. So what was the most useful part of this training? Yeah, loved hearing stories from the field. Yes, thank you to Will and Daryl. Yep, the toolkit, hearing what's been successful for people. Well, yeah, we all come with different levels of experience, but yes, yeah, sharing those experiences. Yes, thanks, Summer. And I'll keep this open, so if you want to continue typing in here. And then I'll quickly go through these, and you can just keep this up and finish if you would. If you want to rate today's session, so if it was relevant to you and your work, if we managed our time well, if the topics were interesting, if it was pleasant and enjoyable, I'll let you do that. And then if there's anything that you wish we would have talked more about, that would be super helpful for us to know as well. And then if there are any other questions, you can type those into the chat or into the Mentimeter there. So as folks are doing that, I'll just let you know, if you haven't been to the Healthy Native Youth website, please, as our lovely Michelle Singer would say, just get lost in it. Click on all the tabs, play with the comparison tool, check out the standalone lessons, the resources there. And then if you haven't heard of We Are Native, this is our multimedia health resource for Native youth. So we have a lot of really great resources, videos, articles, all our text message campaigns are on there. We also have an Ask Your Relative, which is a Q&A service for Native youth. And we answer anonymous questions either in video or text format. We've got some celebrity guest relatives. So Dallas Goldtooth has done some videos, Quanah Chasing Horse, and her mom just did a couple of those. And we've got some elder videos going up. So please share that with youth. And then if you're in Alaska, I know mine is a really great resource for Alaska Native youth. Yeah, you can get condoms, I Want the Kit, and HIV STI at-home testing kits can be ordered off of the I Know Mine website. Please share that with youth in Alaska. And then if you want to take your phone out, if you're not getting the newsletter, you can scan that QR code there and you can stay up to date with the latest and the greatest. You can also text healthy to 9449 to stay up to date. And then Jane put this TA request form into the chat as well. But if you need any technical assistance or training, if you're interested in getting a little bit of support or help with the curricula, just hit us up. If you can't tell, we just love helping. So please let us know. And then in December, we're also going to hear from Will and Daryl. We're just going to swap things. So Daryl will talk a little bit more, and Will also talk to us about the prepare and implement phases. So please mark that on your calendar. And then just a big thank you, Elak Kwa. So the Healthy Native team is part of this bigger team called Project Red Talon. So the Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium, the Intertribal Council of Arizona, Johns Hopkins Center for Indigenous Health, the Southern Plains Tribal Health Board, and the University of Texas School of Public Health. And then of course, us from the Northwest Portland area, Indian Health Board. It's a big team that we all love doing this work together. So thank you to the big team. And we will go ahead and close out with the blessing, and I will pass it over to Taylor to close us out.
Thank you, Amanda. This was a really amazing experience. I just want to thank you all for being here today, for sharing your time and your hearts with us. Feel free to close your eyes and just take some time for yourself to think. I know things in life can be very stressful, and I appreciate the work that you all do for all of us. And I'll just have all of you in my heart, and I'll be thinking about all of the youth in our community and helping them move forward during this time, and learn how to be healthy, learn how to advocate for themselves, learn how to see themselves achieving their goals and going for it. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Hoi.
Elak Kwa. Well, thank you, Taylor. Thank you, Will. Thank you, Daryl. Thank you to everyone on the call. Thank you, Anna, Hannah, everybody who shared in the chat. And I hope you all have a lovely rest of the day, and we hope to see you next month. Take care, everyone.